Hey everybody, big shout out to our Endgame community. Thanks for joining us as always. We're going to talk about the early picks that are the best values round by round. We know that in the early rounds, there are a lot of tough choices because everybody is so tempting, but some players are better values than others, more worth their ADP. Let's talk about first round. You probably want to grab a running back, but who do you take once you get past those first 3-4 guys, from the consensus? Chris, who do you feel is the best value right now in round one, and where do you think that you'd like to get him?
Well, I've talked about this guy a lot. I'm going to keep talking about him, and it's Austin Ekeler. Going towards the end of the first round, sometimes even early second round. I think that's an absolute steal for a guy who I truly believe has top 5 upside. I mean, he really just needs 8 to 10 touchdowns to crack that top 5, because I've talked about it. He's catching 80-plus passes for sure. Yeah, he's not going to get a ton of work on the ground, but that's okay. We're talking about a guy who's probably going to have 1,500-plus scrimmage yards. You give him 8 to 10 touchdowns with those receptions, he's definitely cracking the top 5. So for me, getting Austin Ekeler, towards the end of the first round is an absolute steal, and I grab him there every chance I can.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is somebody who I think they're going to build their offense around. For the most part, we talk about Justin Herbert's numbers, but a lot of that passing volume came when Ekeler was on the shelf. So I do think that he's going to be the guy. Look, there's no competition there either. He is the main guy. So at the end of the first round, I would definitely target him over even a guy like Nick Chubb. But I'm going to talk about a different running back in round one. I think that once you get to the middle portion of that round, if you're kind of stuck in that 7-8 spot, I think it's got to be Zeke Elliott. I don't know why we're forgetting that he was one of the best running backs in the league because of what happened last year. I know I've said this before, but look, he was averaging over 100 scrimmage yards per game when Dak Prescott was healthy. Dak Prescott is healthy. He will be back. This offense is going to be just as good, if not better than it was toward the beginning of last season. It's not like Zeke got old overnight either, okay? This is somebody who, if anything, should be a little bit fresher because didn't get quite as much usage down the stretch last season. People are worried about Tony Pollard. Forget Tony Pollard. Okay, Tony Pollard is not going to take Zeke Elliott's job. I guarantee that. He is nothing more than a change of pace back. So this is somebody who's potential top 5 fantasy running back. And if you can get him outside the top 5, right there, that makes him a value. I can't think of another wide receiver that I would take over Zeke. So, you can have your Jonathan Taylor. I would rather have Zeke Elliott in the first round. Now, when we get to round 2, that's when we start to see a lot more receivers getting taken because, well, all those top 10 running backs are gone. Who do you feel is the best value out of those guys?
Well, it wasn't always this way, but thanks to the uncertainty with Aaron Rodgers, it's definitely Devontae Adams. I mean, this guy was a first-round pick for most of the offseason, and now everybody's worried that Aaron Rodgers won't play. And he falls to the middle, even the late part of the second round sometimes now. I've gotten him, as late as like the 17th, 18th pick in drafts, which is just absolutely crazy for the guy who should be the number 1 wide receiver off the board. If we knew for sure Aaron Rodgers was playing next year, he would jump back up into that first round ADP. So I'm grabbing him every chance I can in the second round right now before people realize that Aaron Rodgers indeed will be playing for Green Bay next year.
Absolutely. That's where you take advantage of the hype in some situations or the concerns also in other situations. So I'm going to go with a guy that seems pretty safe here, Justin Jefferson. But why is he going after some other receivers I don't understand? This is a guy who set records, receiving records as a rookie. There was no competition brought in for targets. Why would he do worse in year 2? Well, if he's not, then why isn't he a top 5 receiver? And yet for some reason, people are still taking A.J. Brown or Calvin Ridley over him. I get that Ridley now might be the guy in Atlanta, but really how much higher his numbers going to get? Is he going to surpass what Jefferson did last year? I don't think so. Gotta love Jefferson's situation. It's not going to get any worse. It's just going to get better. And so if people are taking those other receivers, I will gladly take Justin Jefferson every time in round 2. A lot of times you see him taken at the end of round 2. So that's the perfect chance if you happen to go with one of those top 3 picks because of where you landed and you get him toward the end of round 2, you're building a winner right there. But then we'll talk about round 3. Who you think is the best value there? Because you can go to a lot of different ways at this point.
Yeah, it's another wide receiver, and it's Michael Thomas, who's basically going at the very end of the third round, and I don't get it at all. I feel like this is his absolute floor, assuming, he doesn't miss a bunch of games like last year. I think this is more recency bias, because of the injuries last year. People got burned by him. But look, this guy was very good in the games Taysom Hill started. right? He was good down the stretch. He was getting like his normal, maybe not his normal amount of targets that we saw 2 years ago when he set the record, but we're not expecting that anyways. And you're drafting him in the third round. You don't need him to do that, right? You just need him to 120, 150 targets, 100 plus catches. And Michael Thomas is absolutely going to pay off third round ADP, and his ceiling is much higher than that, right? We've seen that. And whether it's Jameis Winston, who is a gunslinger and is really good for wide receivers, or Taysom Hill, who we saw basically lock into Michael Thomas last year, I don't think it matters. I think he's going to be fine either way. I think he's an absolute steal in the third round. I'm not sure how people can pass on him in the third round. Again, maybe just people got burned by him last year and don't want to draft him, but that's fine. I'll just keep taking him in the third round every chance I can.
Yeah, and I get if there's uncertainty at the quarterback position, that might scare you off for a wide receiver. Look, somebody other than Drew Brees might actually be an improvement for Michael Thomas based on his low average depth of target. But there's no uncertainty at quarterback in Seattle. It's Russ Wilson. I think he's going to feast again this year because they're going to unleash him. He wants to prove that he's an elite quarterback. And who's his number one target? You know where I'm going with this. It's DK Metcalf, of course. The man, again, already the alpha there. And who did they bring in to help? Nobody. It's him and Lockett. And that's basically it. So I think that Metcalf, coming off a 1,300-yard season, has nowhere to go but up. I mean, it looks to me like he's almost a lock. I know there's no such thing as a lock in the preseason, but I find it hard to imagine a scenario where he's healthy all year and doesn't finish as a top 5 wide receiver, and yet he's going in round 3 on average. I don't get what the concern is here. If anything, there is none. And so to me, I'm taking a guy who has even the upside to be the top fantasy receiver in the entire league, and I can grab him in the third round. So that's definitely somebody I'm targeting every single time. All right, we'll get to more of these value picks. We'll talk about some of the later rounds and middle rounds as well. Those are our picks. Who you got? Let us know. Hit us up with a comment. Who are your favorite values in each of the first 3 rounds? All right, thanks for watching.